Hey everybody, and welcome to another Learn to Digitize class. My name is Sue, and I am from OML Embroidery and OML Digitizing. And today we are working in Hatch, of course, because it is a Hatch class. And we're still working on Applique. I'm going to be doing hopefully around 10 classes on Applique, so by the time this is all done, you guys will have it down pat. So we're going to do another relatively simple Applique. It's not difficult once you learn exactly how to do it. So let's get going on that. Let's bring in our artwork first of all. And of course the artwork is available on our Facebook group. And let's see how big that is. And you can tell by looking right up here. Now that's 17 by 11. I'm not thinking we're going to do it quite that big. I'm going to do it larger than normal because I want to do a little bit of detail work because this design is quite plain, although there's nothing wrong with quite plain. It's going to stitch out beautifully. So what we're doing on this one is we are going to do 3 different applique work, and we might even do the grass. I'm not really sure. I have a couple of ideas for the grass, but it is a simple design, and these are the ones that usually work best, especially if you're just starting out with learning applique. It's better to start off simple, get it all down pat, and then work yourself up to different things. So I am going to lock down the image. You can either click K on the keyboard and you can see there's a little lock there, or you can right click and it's right here. I've used it already, lock, and that just makes it so you can't move the image around because it drives me crazy. So let's press the 0 key and get it up to focus. Let's see where we're going to start here. These are our applique flowers, and then this is simply the stem. I think I'm going to change the colors of the stem. So we want probably the grass to stitch out first. Now we can do a few things with this. Let's start and then we'll get to the actual applique. If you want to start on the applique first, that's fine, but you're just going to have to rearrange everything because we do want the stems to stitch out underneath and the grass as well. So let's do that first just to keep everything organized. So let's go into Digitize, and we're going to digitize a closed shape. So let's do this part first. Left click, right click, right click, left click. It's pretty easy going. Right click for the corners. I'm not going to add in this cross piece because I think it's kind of strange looking to me, but that's okay. If you want to add it in, go right ahead. And we're just going to go over everything and make it into one piece. So I'm right clicking, left clicking at the top, right clicking at the corners. And you can go faster or slower than what I'm going. That's fine. It's up to you. I kind of have a lousy mouse and everyone tells me to slow down. So I'm trying to slow down a little bit. Hopefully I'm not going too slow, but I'm sure everyone will let me know. So right click in the middle, left click, right click, right click, left click. Starting to look like grass here. There. Right click, probably to there. I could have done it. Actually, that's a mistake. Now, I know that's a mistake because look what happens when I click here. That's going to go all around, and that is not what we want. All I did was I clicked right click instead of left click, and that's what happens. So if you see all these bubbles coming up, you just go back and change it. That's all there is to it. And you get really used to the right clicking and the left clicking. And if you make a mistake and you're a little bit off, some people like to, do it precision the first time. Other people like to kind of do it roughly and then go back in and adjust. I tend to do it probably right the first time. Don, I think he likes to just, whoopsie, I made a mistake again. I'm forgetting my right clicks and my left clicks. So it depends on how you work. I don't think one is any better than the other. It just depends on how you work. And again, just on a roll today. There we go. Left click at the bottom. Then we're going to make all these delightful curves. We do want a little bit of overlap, but we will do that on the brown part, which I guess is supposed to be dirt. I guess so. So still working on it. Right click, And these are mostly right clicks because there's no real corners in it, and it's conforming nicely. So all this bottom part is right clicking, hit enter, and there it goes. That's a nice bit of grass. I think we'll change it to green though. I like to change my colors as I go along because I like to see what I'm doing. That looks pretty good. It's a little bit plain, but this is a basic design. We can play around with some detail work and maybe do some carvings in there to make it look better. But for now, I do think that's good enough. That's exactly what the picture is. Although I always say just because the picture looks a certain way doesn't mean you have to do it that way. So we will do the outside of the box thinking afterwards. So we want this to stitch on top of the green, and I'm just right clicking, and there's no corner piece, so it's still a right click to make a nice curve right there. And we want it to overlap just, not a whole lot. It's got some nice smooth lines there. You do want a little overlap, so if you have any pull compensation issues, you're covered, and that's generally a rule for embroidery. So here we are, and I've mostly right-clicked around and left a little space. Click here, press enter. That looks pretty good. I kind of like that. I don't think there's blue dirt, so let's go ahead and make that brown. Looking good. Let's check our true view. There's nothing wrong with that. That is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. So let's, just for interest's sake here, we're going to shift click on both of those, and we're going to hide selected. I don't normally work that way, but it just makes it easier when I'm doing the classes because then you guys can see better. So what are we going to do on this one? We can try digitizing blocks and see. That's under Digitize, or if you're using the Janome MBX V5, I think it is under Advanced Digitizing, but anyways, you guys can find it. And this is a side-to-side motion. So it's click, and you see it gives you a little thing, I guess, elastic they call it. Let's zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. I need to move that down. And click on this side, and click here, see how it stretches out? And that is all there is to it. And what it is, these lines going across are going to be your angle lines. And it's a really neat effect, and you can do it with satin stitches. You can do it with quite a few stitches. And it's just a different way to digitize, great for columns, what we call columns, and you don't have to do it as close as I've been doing. I think now if you go ahead and you do something like change the angle, that's going to change how it looks. So we want to keep the angle, not necessarily straight across, but try to keep the same angle. And we can go in and fix this, which I think I'm going to have to. So I want it right about there. Hit enter, and let's go to our true view, and you can see, and that is on tatami, and you can see how the angles work. Now you see that didn't quite work out in there. Let's, I always do that too. Let's go to select. Let's go to reshape and see what's going on. So that's that and that. It's a little bit difficult to see. Probably pull that up a bit, but there we go. And that's what I do. I just had it on true view, and it was just that the angles were a little bit off. See, this one's a little bit short, so it changed. Not bad. I think that's fine. Let's go back to select now. Let's try satin. And that is not actually a bad effect for that now. The satin is automatically split, and it kind of looks good. So we'll leave that one that way. Another way you can do this, let's go back to the digitize closed shape. I'm going to start here. This one may or may not be easier. And we want a right click in there because we want it to curve. Left click, up. It's nice and straight. And then at this point you can hit enter. Different. I think that's okay. You want to try that in satin maybe? Let's see. Play around. It's probably a little bit better, but let's leave that one tatami just so we can see the differences. We might actually be able to do an embossed one on that. Well, that's kind of groovy. I don't think that's what we want. I was just thinking if something looked kind of stem-like, but probably not. All right, we'll fiddle around with that later. Let's do the third one, and we're going to do blocks because I think everyone needs to practice blocks like this, and it's side to side. And let's be really good with our lines. Let's do it up, and we'll do it maybe there. And let's keep the angles. So these right here are the angle lines, and this is the left side, and it kind of goes straight like that. Let's do, and you see how automatically it just elastic and it pulls on there. That's how you know you're doing the other side. Let's keep it about the same. And this one is just a single one, so you know it goes on this side. You don't want to do it here because you're going to make a mess. So you know it goes on that side. And this one is stretchy, goes on that side, and there, and there. And that should look pretty groovy. Enter. See, we did it pretty nicely. Let's switch it over to Satin. Yeah, a little off there. That's why it looks like that, but that's okay. What could we do? Ripple? Nah, I didn't think it would work. But, I mean, it's worth a try, right? I try everything. Not really stem-like, kind of a cool effect on both of them, but not really stem-like. So we actually really don't want these blue, because blue stems, I don't think so. Let's do a dark green. And I am going to leave this first one a little bit different, and that's fine. And this one, that should be okay. So let's left click, then to select, and right click. I guess we could have just done a right click. Might have it. Unlock all, Shift K, and unhide is what I wanted. So we want unhide all. And then my picture got unlocked, so let's lock that back up. See, fix it up. And there, you know, that's looking pretty darn good. It's basic. I think I would like to change the angle on the grass, just to make it, we're going to play around with it, but I think that might look a little bit better to my eye. It's still pretty plain, but like I said, plain stuff is okay. That just kind of works. So let's start with the middle flower just for fun. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Now this we're going to do applique. So let's go to the applique toolbox here on the left, and we're going to digitize applique. And all you have to do is the same thing that you do for any digitizing, and we're going to go boom, 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 left click in the corner, right click, trying to be precise here. Sometimes it's hard to talk and be precise. And there we go. Probably don't need that many nodes, but I'm trying to be precise here. And I'm just right clicking all the way around, this one too, and this one. It looks good. Hit enter. Ah, isn't that awesome? Perfect little flower. Let's change the outside to this kind of orangey color. And let's put some applique fabric in there just so we can see what we're doing. So we can do this one, maybe we'll do this one the factory, and we'll make this one kind of like a light orange. That looks pretty good. And then we can see that it's fabric, and it covers up everything, so you can generally see what you're looking at. I don't particularly like these stems, but that's okay. Maybe we can fiddle around with them afterwards. So that's great for our first flower. You can see over here on the right that it is perfect, and it's in one piece, and that is awesome. Let's do this guy. He's going to be a little bit more work, but still not bad at all. So let's do Digitize Applique, and we're going to start right here, because why not? And we're going to do a right click round about the middle, left click, right click, left click. This one might take two, but let's try it in one. Right click, left click, perfect. Right click, left click, and we'll just kind of guess, because obviously our stem's in the way, so we're going to guess for the right click, left click, right click, left click. Now while I'm doing this, I want to show you guys, it's pretty darn close the way I'm doing it. And I'm not doing that many nodes. You want to do the least amount of nodes. And let me show you why. I'm going to zoom right in here. If you were going to do it this way, first of all, it's going to take you a lot more time. You're not being that much more precise. But any little, let's make a mistake, any little mistake there, say I'm not right on, it's going to show. And we'll go through and fix it afterwards. But just so you know, the least amount of nodes makes a better, smoother, lovelier shape. So let's go right click, and then we can press enter. And that looks pretty good. Now, let's look in here, what I was talking about the nodes. Look at how perfectly smooth that is. That is just delightful, all of them. And this is the one that I clicked on all the nodes. Now this is not bad. This kind of isn't smooth anymore, and this is just way off. Now this node I put down just, a tiny bit, and it makes a big difference. So to make your embroidery look more professional and more, perfect curves are delightful, you need to put the least amount of nodes. So left click in the corner, one right click, left click, right click, plus, how many nodes is that? That's not that many, and I did probably the same amount in this one. So let's go ahead and fix that, because yuck, that just kind of ruined my whole flower. I am kind of that picky. And you can see, if we zoom in just a little bit, see how many nodes I put in there? And we don't need them, so I'm just going to click on it. It's a left click, delete, and it's going to move stuff around, and that's okay, don't panic. Left click, delete. Left click, delete. Can you see it smoothing? We're going to leave that one because it's almost in the middle. Left click, delete. See it smoothing out? Oh, now it's starting to look good, and it pushes it right back out, and we don't need that one either. Hello, there we go. See, when I click on it, it highlights purple, and this one should do it. Now, look at that. And that is exactly, and it's a perfect example of why you don't want, 100 nodes in there, because that looks way better, way better, absolutely. So why don't we put some fabric in there, because that's awesome. Let's go to custom and let's browse and see what we have. These are the ones that come with Hatch, and I'm just going to look for something, kind of bright. Let's go to backyard. What else? Let's pick something good. Textures, elements. Should you put flower? Yeah, why not? Just thinking. Flower, material. Oh, that's so pretty. It's so much fun. Now, of course, you do not have to do this. I just find sometimes it helps you visualize what you're doing with the applique. And it helps me out with it. Oh, you can do nice solid colors. I'm just kind of checking this out with you guys because it helps. Seaside holidays, butterflies, that might be pretty. Why don't we do that? Pick a butterfly one. Oh, those are so pretty. It just helps you visualize it. You don't have to do it, and you don't have to have anything that's close to your material or whatever you're going to use. I tend to use scraps, which is an awesome way of using up your scraps. So let's do the butterfly thing. Why not? Let's see. And do OK. And that just, I don't know what happened there. Let's do that again. If that happens, just go and pick something else, because maybe my computer, the studio computer isn't the greatest. So let's pick something else. I'm having fun going through everything. Well, that's kind of cute. Let's just do that. And let's do OK. And there we go. Why not? It's not fussy cut or anything. But hey, isn't that cute? That is cute. Why not? Scrap material, why not? Who says a flower can't have all this in there? Now, the only thing we're missing right there, let's go to Digitize. The only thing we're missing is the center circle. So I went to the circle tool. I'm going to pull it out. I'm a little off, but that's okay. Click and then enter, and there it is. And that is satin stitch, and I think I'll leave that. Let's try tatami. Yeah, I think satin. Now it's kind of split, but I kind of like that effect, so no big deal. So that's our second flower, and you can see it's right there. We're going to organize colors afterwards. I don't think I want it blue, though. Do I want it blue? We can just tuck it back there. That one was pink. So why don't we change the outside to pink then? What kind of pink? How about bright pink? Why not? It doesn't really go with the fabric, but it'll go with everything else. In the middle of the flower, let's use that same yellow as we used on the outside. Was it that yellow? That's how I check. Yellow, yeah, it was that. Fine. That works. Okay, now we're actually on our last flower. Can you believe that? It's so easy to do and so much fun. Nice and simple. So let's see how this is going to work. They're not quite straight, but let's try one. See, now let me zoom in here so you can see what I'm doing here. And this is how I gauge. And although this is kind of blurry when you go to the outside, if you click here, let's just do it, and here, without any corner curves, you can see that's going to be a bit sharper than I want. So let's backspace, and we're going to have to put a curve in there, and then a left click, and then a curve right about the middle, and a left click, and we know we have to carry on in that fashion. And that's all you have to do. Left click, right click, left click. Try to be as precise as you can, although you don't have to stick with this design. And right click, left click, right click, left click. Keep it going, right click, left click. Now the stem is covering up. Oops, I almost missed one. Right click, left click, right click, and we're just making educated guesses as to where the nodes would be underneath the stem. And if it bothers you, if you don't want to guess like I just did, then you can always hide it, and that would be better. Now I don't want them to overlap because it's not enough of an overlap to worry about. So I'm going to bring this down just a little bit so they don't make a mess for us there. And once you get to that point, you just hit enter and it is done. It's still overlapped a bit. So let's go into the reshape, and I just want to bring this down just, a tiny bit, and apparently a tiny bit more. There we go, close enough. I just don't want them overlapping. It's just going to make it bumpy. So let's see here. What are we going to do for applique fabric this time? Should we just put a color? Factory? Custom was kind of fun. We could do two busy ones. Let's not do seaside though, although that's super cute. So is that. That might be okay on a flower. Let's do that. Let's do okay. And there we go. That is actually very cute. I think I might leave that color blue pretty close to it. Let's try maybe a brighter blue. Nope, I don't really like that. I don't really like that. That wouldn't be the fabric I'm using anyways. How about navy? That works. And then let's do the circle, and we will go to digitize, and then we'll do a circle, and then there we go. I want to make this one a little bit bigger than I did last time. Left click, enter. That may in fact be too big, but maybe not. I think the flowers look cuter with bigger centers. And this one, I am going to make the tatami, and I think I want this darker, so I don't think I want black. We could do the navy. Yeah, maybe that's okay. So that is the 3 appliques you have going on. It's a very simple design. I think it's actually really cute. I do not like that because the other ones look better. I don't like these at all. I would like them to be maybe curved a little bit, but we'll tweak on that. So there we go. That is how you do simple appliques, and everything is in the correct order. We managed to digitize everything fine. I am going to move the yellow center down, or you could put it after here. No, you couldn't actually because you haven't done that flower yet. So it pretty much has to go like that. So the grass is going to stitch out first. Why don't we grab a hold of that, and we will go to Edit Objects, and we're going to remove overlaps on that. And let's do the same thing with this one. Remove overlaps. And let's do the same thing on this one. Remove overlaps. So we should have our grass. It should have some little holes in it. And it does. You don't have to do that, but it just makes it a little bit neater looking. It's fine to put tatami over tatami, but for this one, just because it's cutting right through, I think that's how we should do it. Now, we have our 3 applique objects, some grass, some dirt, ugly stems that I don't like, and some groovy patterns on it, and that is basic applique. I know I whipped through it, but that's all there is to it. Simple is better no matter what you're doing with applique. Keep it simple. Now, organization, we pretty much did everything in the right order. It is a simple design. Let's take off our picture now. So let's unlock it and then hit the delete button. Delete. And now we can see it just a little bit better. And I have my true view on so we can really see that. And I picked some groovy fabric. I don't like that color. Let's do brighter. Let's do brighter. It's about the same. It doesn't look any, a little bit, well, not green, a little bit different. Maybe do that one in the same navy blue. I'm just not liking it. I like that a bit better. And so you're going to have to do the 3 appliques. And this is also a good reason why, just looking at the size here, 3.3 by 3.3, that's a pretty good size. Kind of picture it with your hand. If you were going to make this whole design smaller, it's going to be really difficult to cut out, you know, a 2-inch little flower. 2-inch is not very much. It looks different on the screen, but to get in and do all the details for each one of these on a little 2-inch flower, plus not enough of the fabric is going to show through if you make it too small. So I would actually like it a little bit bigger. Probably not like that. Edit, undo. I think I want the whole thing a little bit bigger. Let's see what size we have. Because I want to be able to use a little scrap. Well, that's big enough, 10 by 6. That's big enough. But you got to keep that in mind when you're doing the digitizing. We don't really want small, super small things because it's going to be difficult to cut out. Now, when you're doing applique, when you're actually doing it on the machine, there's 2 different ways of doing it. If you're cutting this out, again, if it's any smaller and you do the, put the fabric down, do the placement stitch and then cut it, it's going to be really hard to get into all these details. So I really wouldn't make it any smaller for sure. Now, the other thing you can do is you can add some details. Now, the grass is meant to be, you know, kind of in the background. So, but we can play around with that and see if there's any changes that we can make for that. So maybe some embossed. Okay, that doesn't look very good. But maybe, actually, what I was thinking of something different we could do like this. That's okay. I mean, when you have 3 separate appliques, I'm not sure if you have to do anything down here. I kind of like it just plain. We might want to do a little bit of carving if you wanted. So let's just go back to tatami and just accept it the way it is. We could do a few more details on the flower if you wanted to. Again, I don't really like the stems, but I think in general, it looks pretty good. It's 3 appliques, and that would be so cute. You could do the material to match, if you're doing it on a t-shirt, to match pants. You could do all 3 flowers because they're completely different shapes. You could do them all with the same scraps of material. All you need is a 3 by 3 square to make it awesome. So what I'd like to show you next is the Combine Applique tool, which is right here. If you have overlapping, you can use the partial applique, but for the Combine Applique, it's going to do something really cool. So right now when we are digitizing it, we will do, remember on applique, there's 3 pieces to the applique. The placement stitch, the tack down stitch, and the final stitch. So you can do, you know, 1 flower, placement, tack down, final, and change the colors. You know, it has color changes in there so your machine stops. And you can do 1 flower at a time. But if you wanted to, you could do this. You could do Combine Applique. Now, I would suggest saving this design and call it, you know, Pretty Flowers 1 or something, because this is going to make quite a few changes. It is going to break apart all 3 of our appliques and reorder them. It is going to take off our fabric so we don't see that. Well, let's click on there, and it tells you that. Proceeding with this action will cause your applique objects to be broken apart. Save your design to keep a copy. So maybe call it 1. So let's click OK. And you can see it's done exactly that. But look at over here what it did for us. And it's all grouped. So you have that placement stitch, that placement stitch, that placement stitch. And then the machine is going to stop. And then you're going to do, this is the tack down, this is the tack down, this is the tack down. And then your machine's going to stop, and then it's going to do the top ones, the satin stitches. And that is a fantastic way of organizing everything. So you can do just with one click, you don't have to move all the pieces around and make a mess of anything. You select all three, do the combined applique, and that is how you do it. That is how you use that tool, Combine Applique. It's a perfect example of that. So then if you want to just see what you're doing, the problem is now if you notice here, if you look through here, I just clicked on that and it comes up with satin stitch and all your regular stitches. It is now not an applique object, so you can't see it with your pretty applique fabric. However, it is organized properly. So basically, I would suggest getting your applique to a finished stage and then combine it. It's just going to make it easier at the machine. For looking at, I think that's fine. I think that's absolutely fine. And I think that looks fantastic. So, but it's not as organized. So get it to its final position and where you put the applique fabric in and you can see it, and then do the combined applique. I think that'll make things a lot easier. You don't want to fiddle around with it after this point. So let's kind of add on to this. Now, the other thing you could do if you don't want it to be all applique, because that 3 is getting to be a lot. Remember, this is quite large. If you're going to make it any smaller, you're going to have a hard time cutting anything out. But we can always add on to this and do more applique. Again, I don't really recommend it, but we're here to practice everything. So let's do that. Let's make a sunshine. And we can also make a cloud just to make it a little bit bigger. Again, I'm going to stress, whoops, 1, 2, 3, enter. Again, I'm going to stress that you really don't want to put 100 million appliques in there. But, you know, just for the sake of this class, let's do it. Let's do corduroy and let's make it a very bright yellow. Awesome. And there we go. And what do we want for the outside? Maybe we could do black because it's kind of a shadow, or we could even do the bright yellow. That kind of blends in depending on what kind of fabric you are actually going to use. So let's move the sun over just a little bit. We don't want to make this one any wider. It's actually 10 inches wide, and see, that's a good size. That's 2.5. So let's make our sun look just a little bit better. You can always add on to stuff. Go back to Digitize, and why don't we do what can we do? I guess we can do it in a couple of different ways. We can do just pointy random, because you know the sun is full of short and long pieces like that. I think that would work. We're going to have to move the order around in this. So I'm just left clicking and I'm just kind of doing it by eye. And we do want it to overlap because we want this part to be under. And I'm just making jagged pieces and I'm doing them short and longer. And this one will be short and wider and thinner. Just completely random, I think looks probably the best. This one can be actually quite a bit longer. And you want to move them in so they're underneath, because we are going to stitch this out underneath. When you're there, hit enter, and that is okay. Don't worry about it. That has to go underneath. We need to change this to the same yellow, and we need to move that underneath the sunshine. Doesn't that look cute? I don't like it on that, so we'll do tatami. Isn't that cute? That's going to cover it up. I don't think you need to fill it with everything, so let's go to Edit Objects. I would do that a bit differently. I was a bit click happy there. Remove it, and it pretty much, did we do a good job of it? Yeah, you know, it did it in 2 pieces, but you know what? It doesn't actually matter anyways. There's a couple ways you can do that, but just, you know, don't be afraid to freehand stuff, basically. What you can do, let's get separated a lot of these pieces, but you know what? It's okay. It'll stitch out fine. I kind of like the way it kind of curves around, but you might want to, instead of clicking at the end, just go back and do some circles around so it's kind of one piece linking right there, and then you wouldn't have to do the remove overlaps. I think that's kind of groovy just like that. So now look, we've added some sunshine to it, our pretty design. How about a cloud? let's just keep on practicing. So let's go back to Applique and Digitize Applique, and we're just, again, random, but we're going to use right clicks in there to make curves. So I don't want to start it out there though. Wow. Left click, right click, left click. See, it's going to make a nice curve, and we'll do it maybe out here. Right click, left click. See how that works? Right click, left click, right click. No, see, I made a mistake right there. Boop, boop, boop. That's the sound when you make a mistake. And you don't want to put it over here because we're going to overlap. You want to make sure that it's kind of like this way. Right click, left click, and it overlapped anyways. So I have to make that a little bit different. And this is the fun of, you know, freehanding stuff is, you know what? I don't want the overlap. That's the fun of freehanding stuff is you just try a couple things, see how it's going to work. What the problem was that I had this too far in here. So no matter what I did, it was going to overlap. And so I just replaced it with a left click, and now we have a much better shape. And now I can right click and I can left click. So it's just kind of a matter of playing around. Right click, let's left click here, and we did the same thing again. So this needs to be back. Did you see how I did that? It just needs to be, instead of being up this way, because then you're going to get the overlap, it just needs to be a little bit back further. So we could even try it here. Try. And right click, and then we don't want to go too far in again, remember? Left click. See how that worked? Awesome. That might be a little bit too much of an overlap, so let's go back and we'll just make it kind of here and then here. That's much better. See how that works? And then you really get to know your curve tool. So don't be afraid to freehand extra things on your designs. Right click, and we don't want to go in too far. Left click, and we're going to do one more. Right click, and then we're going to hit enter. And look at a perfect cloud created just by you. Let's add some applique fabric in. Let's do factory, and we're going to do white because it is a cloud. And look at that. Isn't that pretty? And just freehand, just absolutely freehand. You can play around with it, and you know, you could do maybe one or two clouds and just practice that shape, because each and every time you do it, it's going to be original. It's going to be absolutely original. Again, I wouldn't recommend doing so many appliques in one thing, but you could even take these two, and it's more than two. So let's select all of these yellow bits just so I can show you. Shift there, and let's group these guys. You could even do that as one design. You can always take elements, these two things as one design. Then you're only having you know, one or two applique fabrics to cut. But just for showing, you know, the class, I think this one looks fine. That is an awful big cloud next to the sun. Well, that's okay. Now I grouped everything on the sun so he stays together. There are more than one ways to do this sun. I kind of like him. I think he needs to be a little cooler though, because this is, after all, is kind of a cutesy design, right? So let's just make it a little cuter. So let's give him some eyes. So click, and then I want them to be about like that, and enter, and that looks cute. We're going to do it into Tommy, I think, maybe an outline on it. I want that black, and I'm going to move it down, and then I'm going to shift and drag. Don't let go, don't let go. Boom, there. Now I let go, and now we have a second one. And you know, I think that's fine. I think he's cute. I'm left clicking to move it around. I think he probably needs a really big smile. So left click, right click, left click. And remember, least amount of nodes, the better. And I want it straight there. And then I'm going to right click, left click, and enter. It can be kind of a cheesy smile. If you want, it doesn't matter. Just freehand is kind of groovy. Now, what's wrong with that? It looks like he's smiling sideways, but what's wrong with that other than the fact that it's blue? Okay, we don't want blue. Let's make it black. There we go. Now look how cute that is. I think that's absolutely awesome. So applique, 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 and then applique and applique. So what you can do again, let's pretend this is the final thing. You can further organize your appliques because now we've added 2 more. And again, 5 is way too many for one design unless you're making this really big. This would be really cute, I guess, if this was a kid's drawing or something that you were duplicating. So save your design and then let's organize everything just a little bit. Now, how are we for colors? Blue, black. It's not a whole lot we can do about those. It's going to be the way it is. So let's control click on these ones. Let's pull up our sunshine one, and they're easy. Oh, I grouped it. All right, hold on. We're going to have to ungroup that. Let's do it again. Let's do that again. Sometimes in digitizing, that's what you have to do. Click, control click, control click. And what I'm doing is that I'm picking out the appliques. Control click, control click. And all I have is the appliques in there. And we're going to go back down to the applique tool and we are going to combine applique. So remember to save before you do this. And it tells you that, do you want to continue? Yes, yes I do. And it's going to pull everything apart. And now you have a whole bunch of objects and a whole bunch more changes for everything. But that's okay because now what you're going to do is placement line cut, placement line cut, placement line cut, placement line cut, placement line cut. And you are done with that part. Then you're going to go ahead and do the tack downs for each one. And then you're going to do the final stitches for each one. And that is absolutely fine. If you wanted to organize the colors a little bit because, you know, your objects are down completely how you want it, that's fine. Again, it looks weird. It takes out your applique material. But if you wanted to, you know, move all the yellows together, of course, these guys have to stitch out first. So it did move that. You have to watch. You can't just click on something and think it's absolutely done. You have to double check your own work, and I'm going to show you what it picked up on that. Look at the sun. These pieces are over top. It's not perfectly even. It's not bad because we cut it out, but we want the applique final part. Now I'm not moving the whole applique. I'm just moving the final stitches. We want that over top. And then once when we get that tacked down, we can do these guys. Plus we make a nice block of yellow. So make sure when you're organizing, when you're doing applique and you've broken it down to this, you have to be logical. If you were moving stuff around and say you did the applique first, remember that that's going to be filled up. Or say you did the face first, the applique is going to cover it. So make sure you do everything in the right order. And you have to think about it that you want these parts to stitch first, then you're putting the applique on it. And that is, you know what, that's wrong. Because now this, and we don't want that, this we need to move up. And I just kind of slide it up. I don't really know where I want it. But as I was saying it, I realized that stuff got moved around. And we do want these ones to stitch out first. So it doesn't matter where it is in this list because we've got green grass, we've got the brown. See, and that would have kind of made a little bit of a mess when I was stitching out. So you really do have to go over it. And then we have the stems. And then we have these yellow bits, which is perfect. And then we start on the applique. Phew! That would have been a little bit of a mess had I not paid attention to that. And you can move this one, match it up with the yellows. You're trying to get, I'm just trying to organize it to not have quite as many color changes. Remember though that these aren't necessarily color changes. We want them, it's going to stitch out all of those and stop. And it's only a color change because we want it to stop. So you don't have to change colors. So it's not quite as bad as that looks. So anyways, that is how you organize. That's how you combine embroidery. That is how you do way too many appliques in a design. But it was fun freehanding them. I enjoy freehanding them. I'm just trying to get this back to there. Now we can have our pretty picture and look at it. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this Digitizing Class Part 2 where we got to do some freehand stuff. You can look forward to more applique classes, and we'll keep working on this, and we'll get more and more complicated and do more freehand stuff, and I will get much better at it as we go along. Thanks everyone.